Hi, great to see you all here today. I'm here with Louisa Yarmartino and Jillian Simkis. Today, we're really focusing on a very timely topic once again, leading remotely in turbulent times, or whatever times you want to call this. In conversations with our clients and our customers and the teams that we're coaching, we've continued to hear stories, really important stories of what people are grappling with right now. And so we put together a framework of our own that really takes into account what leaders need to be doing and thinking about during these times of chaos, turbulence, and uncertainty. And the framework, again, it's what we've put together, and you may have lots more to add, but really, here are the things that we think are most critical and important. Talking about communications, talking about decision making, empowering employees, keeping a future focus in mind, and doing the self-care that you need. So let's dive in and talk about each one of those.
When leading a team through crisis, continuous communication is critical. You need to keep talking, you need to keep sharing, you need to be as transparent as you can be. With really important information, you need to maintain the 3 R's, which is that you are reviewing, repeating, and reinforcing it continuously. Saying something once is not enough. You need to keep messaging it. You need to message it in different ways, maybe in writing, spoken, in all different ways so that people can hear it. When you reduce information or you're not getting enough information out, it creates stress because people don't like to not know what's going on. If you look at our world right now, probably each of us is finding information about what's going on in different ways. Some of us might be looking at the news, some of us might be reading newspapers, some of us might be getting on to government organizations to see what's happening. But the point is that there's a lot of information out there. There's lots of ways for us to get it. And the very best information that's coming to us is coming in a regular way. Whether it's the governor giving daily addresses, we always know when we're going to hear what's going on, what's the latest updates, or it's a leader in an organization, you need to be showing up in very much that same way. Equally important is to make sure that you're simplifying your decisions as much as possible, which is that you are looking at all the decisions that need to be made and seeing if there's ways you can streamline them, make them not so difficult, make sure you're not creating log jams. When you are in a physical space together, it can often be easier to move decisions through. Now that people aren't physically together, how might it work differently? How might it be more elegant, more simple? So really taking some time to think about what's the best way that we can be making decisions.
So in terms of thinking about empowering our employees, what's really important is to think about sort of adaptability. How are people adapting to the current state? And also setting expectations for you as a leader as to what feels like the right way to work. So we've heard, for example, that burnout can be happening because the difference between work and life has sort of slightly merged. So thinking about when are you sending emails, are you doing it at 10 o'clock at night, or are you scheduling for them to send at 8 o'clock in the morning? The other thing to think about is, I'm often reminded of the work of Daniel Pink, which talks about mastery, autonomy, and purpose. So thinking about autonomy, what can employees do on their own, and when do they need to have work provided? Mastery is when can people, continue to be better and better at what they do. So what things are your employees doing? Are there new skills that they can be doing, or new knowledge, or even maybe applying some sort of mentorship program? And then the last thing is kind of setting the purpose, making sure that people are aware of why we're doing what we're doing. And going back to one of our previous talks about thinking about the 4 quadrants that we talked about. Quadrant 2 is what's, long-term, long-range goals, and keeping those front and center for your employees helps them find focus and the right parameters to which to work within.
That brings us to future focus. This is not going to end today, not tomorrow. That temporary feeling of like, this is going to be this way for a couple weeks is turning into a couple months. And so it's really important that you're able to help bring your employees along. Now, everybody has what Bill Thibault in Leadership in the Eye of the Storm talks about as progressive reentry. At different phases in people's minds, are they really getting back up to speed? And they're going from the what wasn't routine to having it being routine. Mm-hmm. We also need to take them forward into what does the future look like? What does the quarter end look like? What are our milestones for the year? Even really being able to think about what's the longer term perspective, that strategic perspective. Long-term planning is still a critical asset to have. And you as a leader need to not only think about it yourself, but you need to be able to bring your people along to do that. It's now more important than ever, because there's going to need to be many trade-offs that you need to make in terms of things taking longer, projects not coming to fruition quite in the way that we thought of when we were looking at this from January 1st. Lastly, it's really important to think about that self-care, the way that you're taking care of yourself and thinking about what is most critical and important to you and who you are. So you got to take care of yourself before you can take care of anybody else. Focus on your strengths. What do you do really well? Start with that. This is an opportunity for you to build on those strengths. The other side of the page is really looking at maintaining your professional and social boundaries. So getting up in the morning and it's the start of work. Having the routine, whether it's exercise or meditation or taking the dog out for a walk, eating your breakfast before you start your day, making sure that you are putting on your professional hat or your work clothes, whatever that looks like, and that you then create that break in the middle of the day to actually eat food, use the bathroom, end the day, whatever time the day ends. But what happens is we morph into this, there's no professional, there's no personal boundaries. That's going to be critical in terms of being able to sustain the momentum. So we've given you kind of a overall framework for what we think is really essential based on the conversations that we're having, basing on what we're seeing. I'd like to have Jill take us through sort of the reminders of how you continue to be a leader in these turbulent times.
Thanks, Carol. So the main thing is really that leadership is a day-to-day activity. And even more so, as Louisa was saying, actively communicating what's going on with your teams will be critical and really important. Maintaining the focus on what matters most. Sometimes what people were working on before this happened might not be essential now. So making sure that we're communicating about what's the most critical thing to work on. Being reliable sources of news, again, making sure that information is cascading through the organization so that people feel informed and ready and not in the dark. Using this time to possibly, as we've discussed, sort of bolster and give people the opportunity to learn some new skills, creating that mastery and that autonomy for your teams. Celebrating successes, whether it's first thing on a Monday morning with a quick huddle or on a Friday afternoon, sort of talking about what some of the big wins were, making sure that we do regular shout outs and try to keep that morale up. And then lastly, as we all know, be durable. This is an endurance sport. We are in a critical phase. We don't know how long this will last, but just keeping your foot on the pedal as a leader, making sure that you're communicating and trying your best to keep that morale nice and high.
So we wanted to give you some reminders of what we think matters most as a leader, whether you're a leader of many, whether you're a CEO of your company, whether you're an individual contributor, whether you're trying to manage what home life is like. All of these skills are professional and at this point in time, personal, to help guide you during these times of uncertainty. So we appreciate you being here. We'd like to share some of the resources that we have, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Take good care.